Good evening, everyone, and welcome to One World, One Blood Bowl, episode 37, which I have set up as an Ask Me Anything. But that would have been really, really boring. Would have just been an hour plus of me asking myself stuff, and that I think even I would find hard going. So instead, I've invited on three absolute leg ends. These are all proper feet, legends of the world of Blood Bowl. Fumblers to a man, table toppers to a one. Also, at least one of them a multiple chalice winner in the Blood Bowl 2. So we've covered all bases as we try and do. And I've set you the challenge of Ask Them Anything, including me. We have a very analogue bag of questions, which means they are going to come out entirely randomly. I have no idea what question in what order. We also have a set of questions for each individual, only 8. But 8 specifically chosen for each of us, including me. And at some point when we get bored of just throwing questions around, we will just stop on one person, put them under the focus, and ask them some of those 8 questions. And we might see how many we get through. I don't think there's any way we're going to get through them all. We're just going to see what crops up. Some of it will be about Blood Bowl. Some of it doesn't seem to be about Blood Bowl, but it'll give us an insight into the mind of someone who is involved in Blood Bowl. Most of it's about Blood Bowl. Or very small horses. I mean, I'm not in charge of who asked what. I just got all the questions, put them together, and I'm ready to pull them out of the pot. We will also take any questions we see going through on the chat, so we're hoping we get a couple of questions out of that as well. Certainly you are welcome to ask them, and if we pick them up, we will try and answer them. I have 3 lovely people with me this evening. You've met them all before if you've watched every one of these shows, and if you have, blimey, thank you. Always smash something if this is the YouTube. Spotify, it's great that you listen. Thanks for listening. If you're watching on Twitch, hey, cool, welcome. And particularly if you're here live, that's awesome. It's really nice to have a live audience. But if you're watching on YouTube, if you just interact with me in any way, hate it, love it, leave any kind of comment, smash like, whatever, all that good stuff, then other people might get to see it, which is always nice. The algorithm will follow you. It won't follow anything I do. Now, there's 3 lovely people. You should have met them all before. Certainly directly above me is a man who I think is standing head and shoulders above us all right now for what he's putting into Blood Bowl. Welcome back, Christian. Hello, Candlejack. How are you, sir?
Very good. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. We certainly didn't talk enough last time about just how much you're doing with the Fumble client and what a revolution that's been for some people. Being able to resize it, something we thought was never possible, having all sorts of different angles, all sorts of different ways of marking. We're all in your debt.
Thank you.
That's it, really. I'm just going to leave it as awkward as that. So, lovely to have you back here. There are some questions about that, but also just some general ones. Of course, you're not just a programmer of the client. You're a tabletop player of great renown, an online player for thousands of years. You are a mainstay of the German Fumble, German Blood Bowl community, I know for a fact. It's an absolute honour to have you here. Speaking of pillars of the community, to my right, the better known and more influential purple in the world of Blood Bowl, it's Phil, it's Purplegoo. Hello, welcome back.
Hello. I'm sure that's not true. I think your influences, you were giving us the stats on this podcast before we went live.
It's lovely a couple of people
reaching.
listen. It is lovely a couple of people listen. I'm thrilled. It's literally here just because it's the sort of content I would want to listen to, so it wasn't out there, so I've made it. Just talking about Blood Bowl, not about the games or, I should have rolled a 3, who cares? But about what we learn or what we know or what we do or how we do it. And the people involved, which I always find fascinating. Speaking of which, what can I say about you that introduced you to people that don't know you? You were NAF tournament director. You were captain of Team England. You've probably been NAF president.
No.
Okay, that's still to do then. You are the current holder of the NAF championships, I believe.
Yes, that's right. I won that lottery.
Did you win that before?
Not that one. I've won the one in Germany.
Okay, so not your first NAF major then?
No.
So, a mainstay of Team England for many years, a tabletop aficionado, and the man occasionally known as Mount Goo round Fumble's way, though Mount Goo has now been destroyed by the rocket Dakar, which we will talk of no more this evening, hopefully. Certainly, if you want to know something about Blood Bowl, then talking to Phil, to Purplegoo, is not a bad place to start. So he's here to answer anything put to him, and he's promised that he will do exactly that, truthfully and honestly. Weird, but true. Speaking of truth and honesty, how could that not bring us, of course, to the lovely, whoever that is up in the corner, the man I call my friend. That's a nice simple way of putting it, also known to some as Dionysian. change that name, because a name, what is it? Is it us? Is it just a label society has put upon us? Went back to something close to his actual name, which is Spence. I'm not going to dox him, but I believe it comes from there. Also sometimes known as Maximum Derek, I think, just proving that he doesn't care what you call him. It'll be the same human underneath. Welcome this evening to whoever you choose to be, the artist formerly known as Dionysian. How are you?
Good evening. All good.
I believe coming back nearly victorious from the British Chess Championships, dipping your toe into a proper game.
Far from victorious, but I'm here.
Well, we are thrilled to have you, and some of the questions, I hope that if we get to your personal questions, might touch on whether we get to have you in Blood Bowl ongoing, which is something I think all of us are worried about from time to time. Should we just launch in? Shall I just pull a question out and we'll go and we'll see where we are? Okay, so the idea with the ones from the pot is that all of us can answer these. These are for all four of us. And they could be about absolutely anything at all. They might be about Blood Bowl, they might not. Might be a single word, might be a complex one. We've got a very small question coming out first. Okay, we're starting with, why did Leo have to die so Kate could live? The door was big enough, surely. I see Christian having a laugh at that. You seem to recognise the reference. Why did Leo have to die so that Kate could live? And surely the big door was big enough.
To be honest, I don't really know. I guess they were just stupid.
They were too stupid. I think that's a fair answer. They were young. All
yes.
young people are stupid.
Yes, I was screaming at the why. It's just silly.
Okay. Spence, can we have you in on this? Why did Leo have to die?
It's about weight, not space.
Okay. So even though it was a big door, the amount of weight of two people on it you think might have sunk it?
Yes.
I think it was tried on Mythbusters. I think people think that most of them might have fitted on that door, that it had enough buoyancy to maintain the weight. Phil, let's bring you in on this. A very contentious issue. Why did Leo have to die so that Kate could live? The door was big enough, surely.
Well, I think this is a rhetorical, philosophical question, like what is the sound of a tree falling in a wood if nobody's there to hear it? I don't think there is an answer. I think it's a thought experiment.
Okay, I think that's a very fair answer. Mine would be because it was in the script. I think a very logical answer there, which none of you got to.
Well, you are a test.
Well, yes, I mean it's I have seen behind the camera. It wasn't real. He didn't actually die. It was all just film.
Oh,
it was all made
really?
up. They were pretending. They pretend for a living.
Thank God.
Yeah, they lie for a living, CJ. That's just facts.
It's a sad world.
Okay,
sad world.
I've pulled the next one. The next one is, we talked about this a tiny bit before we came on air. How relevant and/or important is being in the NAF? The NAF, for those that don't know, is the player-run organisation bringing all Blood Bowlers together and tracking how many wins you've had at tournaments and things, and also keeping Slan alive for reasons. How relevant or important is the NAF? Phil?
Well, I play Tabletop Blood Bowl. That's my favourite Blood Bowl, that tournament resurrection style. And I don't imagine how I might be able to achieve that outside of the NAF if I want any sort of understanding of how I'm doing or where I'm placed in the sort of more wider ecosystem. We're all off to the World Cup, I think, in a month's time. That's not happening without the NAF. It's imperfect, and I'm sure if Spence started the a rival sort of organisation, maybe something else could happen. I don't know, but at the moment today, I think it's very relevant being in the NAF if you want to play that kind of Blood Bowl.
Didn't Sam already start a rival organisation? Real NAF.
Was it a joke? Was it a thing? I don't know. I don't think it went anywhere. So let's say no.
Dio, how relevant or important is being in the NAF?
No comment.
Okay. I'm going to only give you a certain number of jokers before we're obviously going to cut to a Dio's personal questions time. Christian, how relevant or important is being in the NAF?
Well, I think nowadays, maybe. Well, it's. I mean, the tournaments are happening regardless if people are in the NAF that want to go there. But seeing that it's still many people want to have the games somehow be counted, somehow be recorded or so. So I think it's good to have everybody in there just to have there some kind of consistency, but in the fact, I would say it's not super important because the NAF has big enough numbers. But if you don't want to be in it, you don't have to. You can still enjoy the game. Is usually, unless of course some tournaments require you being a member.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's irritating for. So if you are a person that wants your games recorded and somebody turns up that's not a NAF member, and your game is not recorded, that's, I guess, irritating for some people. Hence that.
Yes.
I mean, whatever you think of the NAF, they're a bunch of people that are doing a lot of stuff for you, whether you want it or not.
Yeah. I mean, in the early years, I remember people at tournaments being upset that, oh my god, my 3 wins have been against non-NAF players and they don't get points, and the 1 loss was against a NAF player, and I'm losing. Back in the days when ranking was new and people were really invested in it very much. I guess some people still are, but I guess that has ebbed down a bit. But yes, I still remember that people like encouraging others to join the NAF and stuff, just to get games recorded. And I think as a community thing, it's still good to have people there. As said, there are flaws, there are things that maybe are not perfect, but
yeah, I'd love to do an episode looking at the history, the present, and possibly the future of the NAF. To me, and we probably will at some point. To me, I think it's vital at the moment that you're in the NAF if you enjoy going to tournaments. It's not just about, as you said, recording your own data, but it's about giving other people that opportunity to say, here are the games and look back on them. I haven't really gone and looked at my rankings. I did once because someone told me something and I went to have a look and went, oh yeah, he's right. And since I'm not sure I've been back there. But it's it is important to some people, and it does keep a record of everything, and it does keep everything organised and together and give us some sense of sanity. But with the rise of tour play, I do think it's decreasing in its importance to a lot of people. And I think if tour play had a good universal ranking system that everyone sort of could get behind, that might really threaten the NAF in the future. So I do hope they get their act together a bit more than they are at the moment. But yes, things like the World Cup, which I'm really looking forward to, would definitely not be happening without it.
Well, there's a layer of consistency that the NAF offers as well, right?
Exactly.
So to have your tournament submitted to the NAF, there is a set of rules, a system, and a consistency around what that tournament is that you're turning up to. So if it was just a tour play app outside of a umbrella organisation, you might not have that. Sorry, Christian, go on.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not sure that something like the World Cup would not be happening. It might be happening in a different way, because even before the NAF, there were people that were playing the game. There was Talk Blood Bowl, which is now Talk Fantasy Football, and people had been organizing things. I mean, like the first Euro Bowl in Amsterdam was also it was completely something that just people wanted to get going, and I could imagine that things would happen even without the NAF. Maybe in a different format or stuff, but people will find a way to get the games, so to make it.
Yeah, but I think if we really didn't have the NAF, something not called that but quite similar might pop up anyway.
Yes, probably.
It's a sort of niche that something does feel needed in, and yet I hear lots of communities and games don't have that. So we shouldn't underestimate how wonderful it is, but maybe also ask more of it at times. This one's going to be fun. Nice, simple, easy one. Couple of words, answers only. Ask all of them how they like the Blood Bowl 2020 Season 2 edition compared to Blood Bowl 2016 and CRP. Nice, simple one there. Dio, how do you like Blood Bowl Season 2 compared to 2016 or CRP?
It's flaming garbage fire. 2016 was trash. CRP is the best rule set we've ever had.
Okay, very succinct. Thank you very much for that. Christian, let's bring you in.
To be honest, I don't have much different feelings. They're all a bit different. They all have some ups and downs, but it's because I think personally CRP has I kind of liked it a bit better. Like the game felt a bit different, but it's still all of those are fine with me.
Phil, how do you like Blood Bowl Season 2 compared specifically to 2016 and CRP?
So that it exists is brilliant because the game's never been more popular, and we see more and more people playing. And Blood Bowl's massive now in comparison to what it was. In terms of rules, I wouldn't go as far as to say it's a flaming dumpster fire. You know, it's still 90% of the game that we all know and love. It isn't as good as CRP or Blood Bowl 2016. I think I preferred 2016 actually because it didn't have Claw Mighty Blow piling on, and I don't think there's an awful lot of difference between those two rule sets.
I'd sort of agree with the panel. Not quite as far, perhaps, as Spence has gone. I don't think it's a good rule set. I think it is a step mostly backwards, but at least it's a step. And we had an ossified set of rules for 10 years. And whilst I agree they were the best rule set we had, particularly latter stage CRP, after piling off got removed and then brought back with a team reroll. And then we also got some new teams and a few new skills. So in the latter 2 or 3 years of CRP, I thought that we really peaked. We had a really exciting rule set, but one everyone knew. I mean, everyone was excited for a year that some people were putting Frenzy on a War Dancer instead of Tackle, and then a year later everyone swapped back. I mean, that's not revolution in the meta, is it? That means we needed something, and at least we had.
I'd like to clarify. I'd like
Sorry,
to clarify my issue. I'd like to clarify my issue with 2016 quickly. There, as Phil said, it was a better rule set. Argue the Call is what I think one of the worst things that's happened to the game.
There's a question about that coming up if we get lucky. So let's see. But okay, there's a nice addendum there. This one is quite a quick one for you. I mean, it may not be. We'll see how this takes you. As a team, do you think Black Orcs are competitively viable?
I think they're not going to be super, not like top shelf, but I think they're currently still a bit undercoached, and probably that there are potentials that can be that need to be harvested or something. I think people, including myself, we have not really understood yet what we might be able to do with a team. Maybe it needs some different tiering or something, but I think it can be interesting. But I don't think it will be like going up there to Undead or Skaven or Lizards or anything. But it's
okay. So you think there's maybe secrets to coaching them that we haven't unlocked yet as a community?
Yes, maybe.
My worry is that perhaps those are based around having a star involved. They're just not reactive to things that break through. I mean, you're sending a squadron of goblins after a war dancer or a catcher or something, and it's not going to do any good even if they get there. That's the problem. Spence, what do you think? Are Black Orcs competitively viable?
Yes, competitively viable in a non-redraft environment. So only in an environment that conflicts with the rule set.
But one that currently exists in Blood Bowl 3, for example. So people there are building big Black Orc teams, and once they get lots of skills on them, they're finding they can do stuff with them. But you think when redraft comes in and cuts the Black Orcs occasionally?
You can do a lot of creative things with the mass grab.
Okay.
Especially with the brawler.
And in the NAF meta, Phil, what do you think? Are Black Orcs competitively viable? Are they?
I've not seen too many rule sets that give them enough to put them up there with tier 1 yet. There'll be something somewhere. There'll be if you scoured the database tonight, you would find a tournament somewhere where you think, "Ooh, Black Orcs, they'll be all right there," because that's true of every team, right? But just in straight Blood Bowl, I don't think they're a super competitive choice. But it's great that those teams exist.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite happy with there being some teams that are a challenge if you want to coach them. And that maybe you go thinking, all right, top half counts as a victory here because these are really tough. I think that should be available and viable within a diverse environment like Blood Bowl. Are they competitively viable? I mean, I agree. I don't think I would foresee them in any tournament I've looked at being up at the top end of the tournament. So maybe the answer's kind of no, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think you can be competitive with them, but maybe not compete to win. So I guess it depends how you view competitively. If Games Workshop had a cull of races, which 6 would you retain?
I mean, it's easier to answer which are the first 6 you get rid of, right?
Nope, that's not the question. Which 6 would you retain? You're only allowed 6.
Orcs, dwarfs, wood elves, Skaven, lizardmen, and one of the Chaos teams. Chaos. Straight Chaos.
Okay. Dionysian?
Orcs, dwarves, lizards, wood elves, zons. I don't know.
None of the stunties.
Oh, this is an interesting question because Blood Bowl badly needs to reduce the number of races, and increasing it was absurd.
Okay. I'm tempted to ask why, but that's not the point of what we're doing this evening. Christian, which 6 teams should survive? You're only allowed 6.
Well, first, Undead. How can nobody pick Undead? I mean, they're the
Undead will be my
coolest.
6.
They are the coolest team. They are the super long team. It's good for people to start with in the game because they can do everything.
Very
you have
good
to
win
have
rates
goblins
as well.
because they're fun.
Okay, goblins,
You
undead
have
and
to have-
goblins.
Yes, you have. I think Skaven for something that can mutate, something that can do like the scurrying stuff. Yes, probably some elves have to stay as well. But maybe just take the high elves because I think the others are just dark woods are just too lame and trolls are just they have no justification being there. I think
Okay.
it's just no. I don't really like it. It's just it feels like a forced roster. So about now like 3, then maybe humans as the average Joe team.
Got no orcs, dwarves,
Yes.
or lizards yet.
Yes, well, those come to me. I think like yes, dwarves as well.
That's your 6.
And yes,
You're done. No orcs. You have to have humans.
it's hard.
And we waited for Christian to say it, but we have to have humans. You have to have orcs, you have to have dwarves, you have to have something elfy. I would pick high elves if I just had to pick one. It has to be undead, so that gives you 5. And then I'm stuck between something chaos, something lizards, or I do think you need something fun, so flings or goblins. To balance to give variety, I would add chaos in, I think, to get... and then I've left out Skaven, haven't I? I've left out Skaven, but then fuck everyone
there has to
that
be
coaches
some
Skaven.
silly stunty fun in those. I mean, it will be a main selling point. Like say, and you can play a team with a chainsaw and a bombardier on the pitch, and you go. What?
Thulian's got a point based on what I've said. If you add halflings to that, we have Lord of the Rings. So there we are. That's Lord of the Rings, the Blood Bowl game.
I'm not over the idea that Undead are a cool team. They're not even the coolest Undead team. What gives?
I think it's the win rates.
It's just because they're really like the do-it-all team. It's that's why I really love them. So that's why I would keep them. I think personally, like for my joy, I would prefer Necros because like they're really cool. But it's just like for the game itself, I think Undead would be better.
I like any team that the Games Workshop couldn't kill. So that, of course, includes Pro Elves and Undead, because Undead was split into Tomb Kings, Vampires, and Necro, and everyone went, no, we're still going to do Undead. And I love that, and the same with Pro Elves. So, yes, any team that Games Workshop couldn't kill, I'm firmly behind. What else, if anything, do you play, and why? Phil, what else, if anything, do you play, and why?
Not a lot these days. There's a couple of board games that I play as well. There's a really good app for Through the Ages, so I play that on my phone whenever I've got a bit of downtime. I got obsessed with Twilight Struggle a couple of years ago for about 6 months, and then sort of fell off that as well. I'm old with children. I don't have time for much more. I don't have time for much Blood Bowl, actually, let alone anything else, sadly.
Dionysian, I feel we know at least part of this answer. What else do you play and why?
Everything. Anything people want to gamble on, I'll play.
Okay. Specifically the gambling, though. There has to be a risk element for you?
Generally, yeah. The only thing I really do without gambling would be chess or Storybook Brawl in the past.
Okay.
Did you gamble on Blood Bowl?
Yes, I have many times.
Oh wow. Okay.
Any particular favourite from the sort of phone world or games or things you play on there, or are you constantly just laying off sports bets and watching Phil Ivey?
Just whatever people want to gamble on.
Okay. CJ, Christian, what else do you play and why?
The why is for fun, and what else? Like, for example, like that's probably is our board game shelf that is getting smaller and smaller because like there are too many games out there. So, I like to play basically any kind of games, board games, cooperative, just silly competitive games, just nonsense, card games. Yeah, and sometimes when just been fed up or need to load some Steam, I fire up Fortnite and get my arse handed to me by 14-year-olds.
I love that idea. I'd watch that stream.
It's just sometimes I get some of them, but most of the time it's just like. But still, it's fun. So, just yeah. But usually I'm up for mostly anything.
I bet. Okay, I to put an answer in myself. I currently, as if you've watched my stream, you would know lately, I've been getting into Jagged Alliance 3, the sequel to Jagged Alliance 2, which is a genre-defining game within the tactical squad-level turn-based combat subgenre. So like XCOM, and I would say also like Blood Bowl. And absolutely loving it. It's an 80s action movie send-up throwback, and it's fabulous. I also quite enjoy Polytopia on my phone. Apparently something I have in common with Elon Musk. Who knew?
One of the many things.
The two of us are like twins, really. What do you think of fouling as a mechanic? And are there any changes that you would make to it? There you are, you got lucky. It came out super early as well. What do you think of fouling as a mechanic, and are there any changes you would make to it? Derek.
I think it's a great mechanic. It provides an element of the game where you can really exercise coaching skill in looking at inflection points. The main change I would make to it is removing Argue the Call.
Why?
Oh dear. Okay. Argue the Call. It creates this really unnecessary spiky element to fouling, where the player just gets to stay on, and it kind of swings fouling too much in the you should almost always foul. In Sneaky Git DP, Sneaky Git changes already do that as well, especially in some of the earlier rules before they got errated. And it's just such a big swing. With something like Death Roll, the dwarves now, just spiking that 6 is just an absurd swing.
Okay, so it brings too much spike and swing into the expected values, and that means it's made fouling too powerful, that too many changes at once. You feel it's gone too far in the fouler's direction. We did used to have DP +2 just standard, but it's very rare to get it now. It's only Borak and the Death Roller, isn't it? Phil, what do you think of fouling as a mechanic, and are there any changes you'd make to it?
Well, to go super high level first, like fouling is just a fluffy mechanic in a game. Like it's not evil or wrong or cheating or any of those things. So just to underline that first, I like that it exists. I see what Spence says about Argue the Call. Actually, I think that's eloquently argued. I think it is unnecessary. Unnecessary is a good word for it. I don't think it's sort of transformative. It's annoying when it happens, but I think at the moment we're in quite an interesting place with fouling where it is overvalued, I think, by quite a few people. So loads of people. I've played against people that lean into fouling and have taken, for instance, a Sneaky Git on a high elf lineman, say, because fouling is now really super powerful, and I don't believe it is that powerful. But because that belief has pervaded through the meta and the people playing the game, I think we see enough fouling that it's a bit irritating now. Because when you lean into it, sometimes it works, and it working will perpetuate the idea that it's fantastic and mega, and you'll remember that game where everything died and went away. So I do find it a little bit irritating to use it or to play against it and to lean into it. And that's only because I think you find with most of the more competitive coaches, we want a lovely game where nothing dies and we can all position our little men exactly where we want to do it. And then after positioning all our little men, my 5% better positioning than your positioning wins the day. And it irritates us when Yahtzee is played and things go away. And so that was a very long answer. I think it could be toned down just a touch, but not because it's too good, but because it sort of infiltrated the game a bit too much.
Okay. Question.
I would say I agree with at least with a lot of the things Phil said. At least with the first ones, like it is a fluffy mechanic, and yes, it is there, and it can give some teams an unnecessary edge. I think like stunties, this also the idea of the small guys ganging up to foul the big bully on the ground. It adds some fluff stuff. I remember in the beginnings when people were complaining about, but fouling is so unfair and stuff. So because it has this kind of a stigma, because people, as Phil implied, they associated the penalty in the game with being against the rules of the game or against the spirit of the game.
Yeah, they write a
And I
game with
think,
that as an explicit mechanic you can do, but they give it the name fouling, and everyone goes, "Oh, well, then we mustn't do it."
yes, and
It's
that was
insane.
a bit weird. Well, I think a lot of that also came from because it doesn't give you star player points. So people said, but there's no benefit for you if you do that. You're just hurting my poor team, and people love their pixels or the long-lived, groomed war runners and stuff. So it's but I think like over the years the game got more people in it, but people got more understanding about the mechanic and more of the competitiveness. Yes, maybe a bit toning down would not be too bad. I think I value its strength more than Phil does. I think it is not that much overrated because it works often enough. Well, yeah, about the argue, yeah, I don't think it's. Well, I mean, Snake Eyes on a rush also can also be very swingy. It always depends on the occasion. Sometimes it happens and then tough luck. But yeah, maybe we bring something like the eye back would help in that matter to making like one team over aggressively fouling every time and the opposition not being able to could help to balance that a bit, especially since fouling can now be toned with getting sneaky git and getting bribes as inducement and stuff to like work even more. Not like before with piling on, you could just you get the piling on kill stack and you have to just roll for the dice and hope it works. But now with the bribes, the fouling can be tuned much more into your advantage to do that.
So that's the really high end irritation of fouling, isn't it? There are a couple of teams, and I'm talking about NAF resurrection-y stuff. I think progression's slightly different, but there are a couple of teams, so Underworld or maybe Amazon's at the minute, that ace their strategy around fouling every turn, and the teams are good enough to not have to do that. So it's an extra extra difference maker.
This
Whereas
combination,
if goblins are doing it, what else have they got?
Yeah.
Fine. Not a problem. I think the irritation in people's minds comes from that game where Underworld had cleaned them up in 6 turns. Game over.
Yes. I mean, like, or for example, before for all the rules that did ban sneaky git and bribe and stuff, when you had like on a tournament, it took like old Amazon roster catcher with DP 30 player sneaky git and a bribe, and it just vaporized the opposition. It was just silly and nuts.
Yeah, I mean,
and so that is. Yeah,
it's one of my concerns because, of course, it means that goblins continuously get destroyed by all the nerfs to the rule sets and the tiering structures of tournaments. Because whilst they need all of those toys, they're not getting them to stop other teams getting them, which I think is mainly the reason. Underworld, for example, I think Phil's right. They come with every trick in the book. They get the extra players, they get the fouling game, they get the sniping game, they get the mutations game, they get the one-turning game. They're cheap, they can afford stars as well. They really had every option available to them, and one of them was value every turn and value off the pitch. There should be some teams for whom that's a viable option. I think Black Orcs with their ability to put you down anywhere, use their guard players to assist them, and the goblins to foul. I think fouling comes naturally to them.
Yes, give the Black Oak something like an hooligan, like a dirty player starting
Yeah, maybe
position
so.
or something like that.
That might be the way to give them that little
But yes, it's a
burst of a buff they need.
Yes, I have to agree that like all the levers or leverages that are in the game, all of them seem to apply for Underworld. It seems like everything that is there, Underworld can make use of it. And that's a bit,
I mean, for example, as a goblin, I can turn up with a couple of bribes, a dirty player sneaky git using only a normal skill to do so, and a biased referee because I can be cheap enough to have that cheap biased referee, which is another thing.
Someone mentioned biased referee.
That adds into my fouling game, and I can very confidently foul and not get sent off, and you can't foul back as a biased referee. And it's not like the eye where it's just done because I'm doing it and then it can flick back. No, I've got the biased referee. You're screwed all game. You foul me, you're in trouble, and I've got good chance of not being.
Yeah.
And that should be viable for goblins, 32% win rate, but it shouldn't be viable for Underworld with their 63% win rate.
Yeah.
And it
and
is.
Talking about swingy, if you then add something like Friends with the Ref, or Under Scrutiny, then so your opponent can't fall back or something. This is things that are, in my opinion, really unnecessary and swingy, like silly prayers.
I think this speaks to a higher level issue than fouling, though, because the goblin issue that you're talking about, that's symptomatic of the community sticking with their previous tiering and only moving it a little bit. Now we're in Blood Bowl 2020, so they've gone, there's a problem with sneaky git bribe. Whether or not you believe there's a problem or not, that's what they've said, and thus hand down, stamp it. So you could easily do it. So you could easily do it. So tier 4 or whatever tier goblins end up in don't have that problem. But there are things like that throughout. So Underworld are actually very rarely tier 1, and is that causing their massive win rate, or is it?
It caught me out recently. I went to Borak Bowl in London, and I chose to, like I did, lean in. I took a sneaky git a couple of years ago to the NAFC on my Dark Elves, and got good change out of it because I had a couple of people foolish enough to feed me an elf around to kill. But anyone with decent strategy understood I had it and wasn't giving me anything I could really get use of it with. The same thing, I decided I'd play Underworld, and again I picked like the Death Roller just after it was popular and when it started to be nerfed. And I turned up having picked my roster, and turned out that Underworld had moved to tier 1 and no one had told me. So suddenly I lost 3 skills, a secondary, a primary and a mutation, all disappeared from the roster I thought I was taking. And yet I still coached 2-2-0 and was a 1 in 9 away from winning the tournament. They were fine at tier 1, facing other tier 1 teams with the same package they had. Really, there was no problem at all. I was competitive in every game. It just wasn't a problem. The one game I wasn't as competitive in, I had a very bad first half against goblins because I forgot to swarm. And if I'd swarmed, I think that would have solved the problem. So, yeah, I just don't think they need to be anywhere other than tier 1. I don't think they need all the fouling help that they get, and I think goblins do. And the current state of fouling, I think, is fine, except for that dichotomy, where we have the top tier in win rates at the moment under Resurrection format, getting hit with lots of banhammers, and it's also hitting the bottom tier in terms of the team in terms of win rates, and it's all down to the fouling meta. I also agree that things like Zons shouldn't need to be fouling. So yeah, right. Let's take a quick break from these questions because I want to wake Spence up. So we're going to go for Spence's first 4 questions. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready for this. Let's go, Spence.
Fantastic. Let me get Spence's questions.
He is enthusiastic. He can't wait. You see it in his face.
Well, I'm just trying to... I know he's had a long, tiring weekend. I'm thrilled he's here with us. So let's see if we can keep him, reward him for the effort he's put in by keeping him awake and involved. Dio, give me a number between 1 and 8.
3.
3. What's your biggest poker win?
Probably second in the Omaha 8 2008 World Series event, so about 160 grand.
Wow. Okay, very, very impressive number there. Give me another number between 1 and 8, please.
4.
Given the success of your YouTube when it was running, would you ever consider starting a YouTube channel again, or at least offering deep dives into plays again?
No to the first part, possibly to the second.
Okay, any reason why you'd never consider another YouTube?
No comment.
Okay, fair enough. You've answered the question that was asked. Give me a number this time between 1 and 6, please.
6.
6. What is the best thing to bring to Blood Bowl from poker?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
What is the best thing to bring to the game of Blood Bowl from the game of poker?
Probably just familiarity with working with the concept of equity-based decision making and expected value.
Okay. Which is where you look at a play and say, this should do this, therefore it doesn't matter whether it does or not, that's the right thing to do compared to this. Yeah?
Yes, that's what you're trying to do. Each of your plays, each of the lines of play that you're considering has an expected value, and you're trying to maximize your equity in each game.
Okay.
I was
And
expecting you to say 160 grand prize winning.
yeah, the ability not to have to work.
Yeah.
I'm sure winning poker is lots and lots of work. And finally, a number between 1 and 5.
1.
What would you do if I played Knight B3 in a Spanish Open variation?
No comment.
No comment? You'd be
No
comfortable with a B3, or you're not going to give it away?
No comment.
I think he'd immediately resign looking at that face.
Yeah, I think that's my advice to the person that asked that is, please do that. It seems he doesn't have an answer. Okay, let's do another 4. Anyone want to volunteer for 4 personal questions?
Phil volunteers.
Phil volunteers.
Yeah,
Well done, Phil. I knew we could rely on you. For those those just listening, not seeing the video, I am of course putting Phil full screen for all his sins. Give me a number between 1 and 8, please.
7.
7. What's your favourite stunty team?
Goblins. There's only one favourite stunty team. Anybody that says anything other than goblins is wrong.
This is why we love you. Give me a number between 1 and 7.
2.
2. What are your Blood Bowl goals going forward, or is it just about pure enjoyment?
Oh wow, that's a great question. I think the thing that I focus on every year is trying to get picked for Team England. I think that is so winning individual tournaments, or winning team tournaments. It's nice if it comes, but to continually be seen as by your peers as worthy of being picked for Team England, I think is the consistent thing, and that's effort every year.
Okay, very nice answer. Thank you. Number between 1 and 6.
3.
What do you attribute your Blood Bowl success? Nice, easy one.
I am sort of low-key obsessed, and I've got some great friends who the bigger tournaments that I've done well in, I've done well alongside them. So they're 2 nice things to have.
There are only 5 left. 1 to 5, please.
2.
2. If you could start again with Blood Bowl, what would you tell yourself now, knowing what you do know now? And would you change anything?
Oh, wow. So I do this thing with all the games that I play. So the 2 that I mentioned earlier, Through the Ages and Twilight Struggle, are the same. And Blood Bowl I did this with as well. I think for the first 150 games I played on Funball, I just didn't care. I was moving bits around. The client was telling me what the weather was. I didn't know. I sort of picked it up as I went along that nice weather was more likely than a blizzard, or etc. So I sort of let the games wash over me until such a time as I decide to get obsessed. And I think what I would probably tell myself is that Blood Bowl's worth obsessing over more quickly, and getting into more quickly. Also, I would say to myself, go and play tabletop tournament Blood Bowl more earlier than you did.
Yeah.
They're not scary people. I thought, who plays this game in real life? What kind of weirdo? And they are all, and we are all weirdos, and that's great. But they were the right kind of weirdo. So
yeah, what is terrifying is it is terrifying to walk into a Blood Bowl tournament for the first time, and it's more terrifying to realise you probably belong. Truly chilling moments. Christian, we've avoided it till now, but it turns out you are front and centre. Give me a number between 1 and 8.
Let's see. It's 1.
Number 1 is, what is the thing you wish you could just make Fumble do instantly? with no work required.
Instantly.
Instantly. Just click your fingers and it does it.
Seasons. Having seasons implemented.
Oh, I love you so much. What an enormous amount of work, and we're not pushing for it. We're not expecting it. We're not even asking for it. It's just something you and I wish could happen. Give me a number between 1 and 7.
4.
1, 2, 3, 4. Is there a stereotype of the English Blood Bowl player in Germany? And if so, what is it?
Well, there are. It's a bit hard to say. But I would say more like. What's the correct word? Maybe not serious, but not like over ecstatic. It's like the English are not known for like being too emotional, and occasionally being a bit drunk.
Serious and reserved, but a bit drunk.
Yes.
I think we'll take that. That's all right.
Yeah, I think we'll live with that. Okay, pick a number from 1 to 6.
That's 1 again.
1 again is now. Why do you give so much of your time for free to Fumble? Please don't stop.
Well, because firstly, I want to play the game online and in a proper manner. I'm also doing this work for me, to be honest, and it's just I just like it when you build something and you see it like come to life, and actually people use it and enjoy it, and that's also something that I want to do with my profession, with my daily job, and that's what just gives me great satisfaction. And that's just I know that people appreciate new features and that you're just there and have fun and can blow some steam and keep the game alive. That's very cool.
There's a wonderful RSI animates about what actually motivates human beings and how it isn't money to the degree that we perhaps expect it to be. And some of the 3 motivating factors that economists have never really looked at that do seem to motivate humans: autonomy, mastery, and mission. Because a modern economist has to explain why things like Wikipedia exists, where experts give their time for free for something they will never get any reward from. And it turns out that we quite like being a master of something, being good at doing it. We quite like the autonomy to do it and do it ourselves. And we also quite like the mastery, autonomy, and mission, and that there's something behind it that we believe in, which with Fumble has ensnared many of us. One final one for you in this round. 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1?
1 again.
1 again. What song gets you to the dance floor?
I think I'm too old for that by now. So I'm sorry. I'm a very, very boring person nowadays. I don't dance.
You don't dance?
No.
Not even I Don't Feel Like Dancing by the Scissor Sisters would get you dancing. No. A good German Oompa Loompa band?
No, it's just at least I haven't danced in a long, long time.
Surely if David Hasselhoff cried freedom, you would feel you had to.
Don't mention him.
That man united Germany.
United all of us.
He did. He did. He so did. Okay, you cannot get CJ to the dance floor nowadays. What a revelation. Derek, give me a number between 1 and 8, please.
1.
These are real. There are actual questions on there. They're not in focus, but look, there are, really honest. 1. Have I gone off dwarves? No. I still love dwarves. I'm playing a lot more elves and just other things, just because it's nice to, and because it was hilarious that everyone thought I only played dwarves. I still love them, but I do think in the current rule set, unlike Jimmy Fantastic, who thinks they are the god of the current rule set, I think the number of strong teams around and the inability to roll lucky plus strengths here and there has left them with a much tougher job than people thought they would get. I think that's being reflected in some of their win rates as well. Phil, give me a number between 1 and 7.
6.
How important is it to bring a legal roster to a tournament? It's very important, Dimmy, and it's something I will always strive to do from now on. Thank you.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, it is. That's never going to get old, is it? That's going to live forever. Who haven't I asked? Christian, give me a number between 1 and 6.
6.
Any One World, One Blood Bowl episodes you wish I'd done and haven't? Loads. Particularly, I've always said I want to have a look at toxicity, toxic behaviour in Blood Bowl. And everyone I ask and say, do you want to come on to this? They go, yeah, but I'm not toxic. Which makes it a bit awkward when they ask why I've asked them. So at the moment, I just don't have 3 people that are volunteering to do that either have a toxic past or who I would think of as toxic right now. Okay, we have one more for me in this round. So let's go back to Dio. A number between 1 and 5, please.
3.
3. Will One World, One Blood Bowl reach 100 episodes, and how would I celebrate? Will it reach 100 episodes? No, I don't think so. I suppose it might, but that's a lot of episodes. That would be several more years. I don't think so. How would I celebrate? I'd probably do one naked or wearing a silly hat. But I think naked would be the way, wouldn't it? We'd do a One World, One Blood Bowl naked. And yeah, I think Dio would clearly be in for that. So that's, I think, probably where we'd go with that. Let me see if I can get back all 4 of us. There we go. That was the personal round. Did we like that round? Yay.
Very much, yeah.
Cool, let's pull a question. There's this big one bothering me at the start. Should we go with that one? Well, the answer is yes, because I've pulled it. Right, bear with me. This is going to take some reading. When is the right time to blitz the ball carrier? In the way back, when you had only 1 reroll per turn, if you could reasonably put block dice on the ball, you do it, no question asked. Now, with multiple rerolls, there are many more situations where you can reasonably put block dice on the ball. I have found that springing the ball free is much easier, but could cost you all your rerolls. And if you don't have a reasonable chance to recover the ball, those rerolls are wasted, and the rest of the half is fighting uphill. Is it still always the right decision to put block dice on the ball, or do you need to pick and choose your opportunities to maximise the big turn when you use a pile of rerolls, and you will end up with the ball in a protected position? Phil.
Well, thank you. The only question you have to ask yourself is, am I going to get a better chance than this one to hit the ball carrier? So be that a 6-up with Black Orc into a cage, or one go for it for 6 dice at the ball. If you're going to get a better chance, or you think you're going to get a better chance by wearing the guy down and making his position worse, or because he's not playing very well, and this is a 1 dice this turn, and in 2 turns time, you're confident you'll get something better, then that's the equation. I think the high end of that equation is this is a 6-up into a cage now, or it gets worse later, and not being embarrassed to do the 6-up into the cage because it's the best time. I don't think the multiple rerolls thing changes that equation. I think it's always been the same.
I'm not quite sure that is the only equation there. Like, you can also think about, do I actually get the ball from him? Can I pressure him into scoring early or something? Or do you just lay back and have a good chance of do a 1 turn or something? And which might, because like for a lot of teams, the guy doing the 1 turner might also be the guy trying to do the cage break and might die doing that. So I think that's a bit more of the context of in this.
Yeah. So that's good flavour. I gave a very generic answer. I think there are fluffy bits around it as well.
Yes,
Spence.
But yes, generally. Yeah.
Let's bring you on this.
I think the premise of the question was flawed, as in CRP, it was often correct to leave sacks on the board deliberately. You shouldn't always be taking the sack on the ball. The question that matters is the expected value. So a lot of time, just as an example, if you're just outside critical distance, your opponent's columning defense is probably working. Your opponent's defense is working. If you leave a somewhat dubious sack on the ball, it's a resource management game. He's spending resources attempting to sack the ball, and his defense will be in tatters, and then you just run through. And a lot of the time, even if he gets the sack, if he can't recover the ball afterwards, you're usually no worse off than you were, or very little. It's just branching probabilities.
Yes, and even if they do sack you, and as you say, they don't recover, if they've used 3 or 4 pieces to do that, which are now out of position in terms of defending you, suddenly you've got the breakthrough. I absolutely agree. I'm not sure I love that question, as I think a lot of us have said. it's kind of the same as in CRP. If popping that ball isn't going to secure that ball, then it's it's kind of a waste of time and a waste of resources doing it, and it's really likely to
Or
pull you out of position. On the other hand,
maybe,
if popping it is going to put them under so much pressure that next turn you will
yeah,
secure it, then it's the right thing to do.
or maybe not even secure it, but like example against Tomb Kings in pouring rain, for example,
Yeah.
you don't have to recover the ball necessarily because just you will cause him to lose like 1 or 2 turns, maybe not picking up the ball, and that can be enough already. So that might. My issue with the question is it always the right that there? I don't think there's any situation where you can say this is always the right choice to do.
No. Picking up on something Phil said as well, though. I mean, if it does look, if they stabilise super early, and it looks like all you're likely to get is a 6 up into the cage, or maybe a 5 up into the cage, then doing that fairly early will first of all give you other chances to do it later in the drive. And if you do that 3 times, the odds aren't as terrible as if you have just 1 time to do it. So recognising exactly where you are, what your various outcomes are, what the rest of that drive's going to look like, and then have a look at that shot on the ball and ask yourself, am I going to get another? Am I going to get better? Or is it going to pull me massively out of position for maybe a 10% chance it goes my way? In that case, don't. Right, big question, reasonably easy answers. Let's see what the next one brings. What is the best advice you've ever given, and you've ever been given, and who gave you that advice?
Okay, I'll go first. I think we had that question last time was on, so that's easy for me.
Okay.
I think at least at that time it was when Jeff Porrett, we were talking about, and it was like this. When you think about what you're going to do, and that always make yourself aware of the difference between like first prize, second prize. A lot of people refer to it now as risk reward strategy. That's like see how likely is it to get to the perfect position or the perfect outcome compared to like the second best outcome, and how risky is that to do, and then like always evaluate that, and you don't always have to go for the first prize. Often enough, going for the second prize will be much more valuable overall. Like, so like, what was the estimated outcome? Are the resources I put in? What are the risks I'm taking? How much might I lose on players? And
so
then
I can definitely stop their drive, or I can maybe turn it over and score.
yes,
Perhaps I
yes,
settle for the definitely stopping the drive, as
and
that'll win me the game.
actually, for me, that was at that time in my development as a player was a very good advice. It was like I think
It didn't necessarily
2005,
say Blood Bowl,
2006-ish.
but there's some great Blood Bowl advice.
Yeah,
Dio, what's the
yeah.
best advice you've been given, and who gave you that advice?
Well, I used to do with Wood Elves. I used to do a fairly generic offset defense, and then a coach by the name of PurpleChest gave me advice to move 2 players and shift them out, and that setup got invented by Gdanik a couple of years after this, and that helped my immediate Wood Elf results, and it also made me think more about destabilization and refine my ideas on that.
Did I invent the Gdanik defense without knowing it?
I imagine someone else invented it a few years before that as well.
I'm sure they did. But that's really interesting. Actually, what I was thinking about there was the destabilization of the stabilizing phase, not necessarily anything about defense. It's about putting that mental pressure on instantly. Phil, what's the best advice you've been given, and who gave it to you?
I think the first time you learn about one turning, either doing it or defending it, I think it's very rare that I come across somebody that's come up with that on their own. So I think that first time somebody lets you in, either by doing it to you or showing you, I think that's a lovely bit of Blood Bowl advice that sort of blows your mind the first time you see it.
Do you remember who showed you that?
I'm struggling. It will have been somebody on the internet. Yeah, I will have watched somebody on the internet. My mind will have been blown. Let's blame Pete. Let's call Pete W.
Yeah, I was going to go with Pete W, but you've already called him now. I was going to say Pete W for saying you should play tabletop for PC, which I do think is good advice, and I should have done it 10 years earlier. But I'm going to go with my Blood Bowl man crush, which is, of course, Gagster, saying to me that all the races are the same. It's only the numbers that differ. Great advice, though not as good as his advice about listening to someone else's dice story. Which I think is fantastic, and I now do it all the time, but not with the same aplomb that he does. because how could you? Okay, let's grab another question. This is taking too long. We've got thousands of these left. We could do literally another entire one of these. I have enough questions. How do you train your dice rolling skills to the perfect amount of noise to 6/6 ratio? Do you have dice rolling skills, and how do you make sure the noise is right?
I think I overroll because I'm thinking while I'm doing it. And a couple of times recently, people have said to me, "Oh, that must be a good one. You rolled that for a long time." So I'm now really self-conscious about it.
Okay. Dio?
Pass.
I didn't think that was one that would grab you. Christian?
Well, I'm not very conscious about the sound, to be honest. More like I try to make sure before I lift the cup that the dice have finished rolling.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I'm sorry. I don't think I can answer the question in the
I
spirit was
yeah,
asked.
I admit.
Yeah,
All right, I'm the one then. I do shake slightly harder when I desperately need that 6. Only slightly harder,
Yeah.
but I admit it happens.
When you
Age-old...
desperately need a 6, you hand roll that one, don't you? Surely.
No,
Hand roll the re-rolls.
I show that I'm rolling and shaking. I want them to know that it's properly rolled and shaked, because when people just plop their dice, I want to kill them. An age-old question: what race should you play if you're new to Blood Bowl? This is a simple one-race answer. What race should they play if they're new to Blood Bowl? CJ? Christian?
Orcs or undead.
Okay, you've managed to ignore the one-race answer right out the bat. Well done. Dio, don't listen to
Humans.
me. I'm not in charge. Humans, okay. Phil?
I was going to say humans.
And I'm going to go with orcs. There you are. Easy. We like those questions. A train goes from Manchester to York at the speed of 40 miles an hour. On the return journey, it moves at a speed of 80 miles an hour. If the return journey takes an hour less than the outward journey, why isn't Blood Bowl played with a D8?
Wow, dead air is great for the podcast, isn't it? So you do occasionally see this. It's too random, make it a D8.
Yeah.
And I think people...
Matt Dacker and Andy Davo, both known to be in that camp.
So I think both fine, upstanding individuals in their own way. I think that they're both overthinking it, and people relate to D6, and they've got to remember that not everybody is playing this with in the same way that we're playing it. In fact, 90% of people, sadly, don't know you exist. PC, incredible as that is,
amazing and upsetting.
and they are really content with a thing that they are familiar with, and with the skew of probability in the game.
I'd say 90% of people that do Blood Bowl don't know I exist. And I think what they like about Blood Bowl is the familiarity of it's based on American football, that they kind of can get their head around that. It's got the Tolkien elements to the races, they can get their head around that. It's all mostly done with D6s. Where it isn't, those are in a very occasional roles around the fringes that you won't have to learn about when you get going into it. And I think a D6 is a really friendly shape that people like when they look at it. Christian, D8s is actually what that question was about. Should Blood Bowl have D8s?
Personally, I don't think so. The question, I mean, what do you want to achieve? And it seems like people want to remove randomness and make the game more like chess. And if that's the case, then go play chess.
Dio, if you want less randomness, go play chess, not bring in D8s. Do you agree?
Yeah, D6s are completely fine. I think what people forget is that it's very important that the weaker player has a significant chance to win each game, and typically between 25 to 30% is about right. And any changes that make it so that weaker players lose too often are going to be very bad for the health of the game. D6 is completely fine.
Yeah. And the randomness is what keeps people in the game, because there's always this chance you have. And if you reduce that, it's just a lot of the games will be over more quickly and less interesting more quickly. So
absolutely. If it was
think
chess, I would never
game.
beat Phil. But as it's Blood Bowl, there's a chance one day I do, if my confidence is high enough.
And we'd also draw a lot, wouldn't we? What's Magnus Carlsen's win rate? It's like 50% or something, because of all the draws. So you win more at Blood Bowl than you would at chess.
How much do you think about the fluff when playing in the leagues? And how much do you enjoy the story of your team? Or is it just about playing the game and the mechanics? Dio, how much do you think about the fluff and the story of your team?
0%. It's all about the mechanics.
I wasn't shocked by the answer. Thank you for your honesty, sir. Phil, how much do you think about the fluff and the story of your team?
Very rarely. There are occasions. So in my local tabletop league, which I joined for a season, there was an infamous skeleton. So it's an ongoing league, so they don't re-roll the teams. An infamous skeleton called Billy Bones, and I've been told the story of Billy Bones many times. Like, he hoovered up all the random MVPs, had about 7 skills, did marvelous and amazing things, and I sort of enjoyed those stories to an extent. But my bits do not care.
Christian, do you care?
To be honest, not too much. I tried to make myself care a bit more by creating like this an adoption team that a lot of people also do on Fumble, where the coaches from the league then get to decide what skills, when to skill up, what to skill. So now it's like a hive team where people chance, okay, this guy is now taking a random skill, or is waiting for this to get a bit more fluff there to actually to make myself be less like obsessed about the pure mechanics. To enjoy it a bit more again.
Yeah, you struck out here with this question. I couldn't give a one shiny shit about it either. I do solely in so much as it drives user interest in my Twitch channel, because I'm all about the Benjamins. Sorry about that, whoever asked that question, but at least you got honesty out of us. Okay, next up. If you couldn't play Blood Bowl, what would you play, or what would you do with all that time? Phil, what would you do with all your time if you weren't playing Blood Bowl?
I would get about 1 weekend a month back, and I think I would do the same that I do every other weekend: kids' parties and add taxi service.
But what if you weren't invited to a kids' party that weekend?
I don't know. I'd probably waste it playing Xbox or watching more sport, the usual.
Dio, what would you do if you weren't doing Blood Bowl?
The hours would be split about 90% on more chess study and 10% attending more races.
Okay, that's you racing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not going, hey, I'm black this week, or I'm Puerto Rican, not attending that sort of race. Christian?
Probably playing other silly games more in the time, so it's...
Yeah.
Also not very creative answer, I know, but it's...
I think I'd be playing Jagged Alliance 3 and other squad-based, turn-based tactical war games. Because that's the sort of thing I love. Very linked question. Why Blood Bowl? You clearly all have excellent tactical thinking, but you could be out there playing games that don't have such a heavy reliance on RNG. So what is it that keeps you coming back after you've essentially learnt it to the point that luck is likely the thing that makes you lose? So what is it about an RNG-based game, considering your tactical genius level minds, gentlemen? Candle, you're laughing. I'm coming to you because of that.
Yes. I need the bloody RNG to win my games, because seriously, no, that's actually the thing that keeps me in the loop, because it is has this randomness, and yes, you get the upset when you get steamrolled by a newbie, or like a few days ago, somebody pops into the cage, ball pops out into the one square where the catch is, into Texas, catches the ball, runs off, and you lose the game. Yeah, that happens, but that's also what makes it interesting and fun, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I always said sometimes I get lucky, and I think that's what keeps me coming in Blood Bowl. Is that I like that, and I like the fact that anyone can win any game. As long as they've learned the basics, anyone can win a game of Blood Bowl. I think that's fabulous. And that's the sort of game I want to be involved in. Spence?
The RNG isn't a bad thing. It's the variance is what creates the game. It's you should think of it more as the field that we play on, and you're swimming across a river to get to the other side, and one of you will have a choppier path through the water than the other. It's it almost creates it like a roguelike atmosphere. The game is a little different. It's what keeps you coming back.
Yeah.
The depth of strategy. It increases the depth of strategy.
Yes, I've always said in any one game, someone is always going to be unluckier. Someone's always up against it in any game of Blood Bowl. Someone gets the worst dice in every game of Blood Bowl. And not knowing if that's you and coping with it and still trying to thrive and survive is, I think, interesting. Phil?
I think it's entirely plausible that there is a game more for me out there, but I'm not going to find it. right? It was entirely random chance that I started playing Blood Bowl. I don't have a Warhammer background. I don't have the time to pick up anything else. Let's MCP. So Joe, a good friend of mine's massively into MCP now, thinks it's amazing. I just haven't got the will or the time to bother. I think Blood Bowl was kind of random chance that I landed here. I think the RNG is at a really brilliant level, like the other two have said. I think it is endlessly fascinating. Like we were talking about chess before we went live, and I had that point where everybody else started studying and understanding the books, and I couldn't be bothered. And I don't have to study in Blood Bowl because every game is very slightly different. Okay, there are patterns that you recognise, etc. But every game is I've got to think myself out of this problem, be it a dice problem, or be it how to maximise my position here if I'm already winning. It just endlessly fascinates me. So maybe there is another game that would be more endlessly fascinating, but I'm quite happy where I am.
Yeah, I mean, I'm exactly the same. There's a Tim Minchin song that's an ode to his long-suffering but beloved wife that he met in childhood when they were both at school together and has been married to ever since and loves incredibly. And the song is, "If I didn't have you, I'd probably have someone else." And I think that's, I think if we didn't have Blood Bowl, I'd have something else. But I don't because I like that RNG element to Blood Bowl. What's your most memorable Blood Bowl moment? Quickly on this one, although you can give me a long anecdote if you wish to. Mine, I've said before, I think it was probably taking 3 online Twitch players that had never played tabletop to 3rd place in the UKTC. That's the proudest I've been as a Blood Bowl coach. I was absolutely thrilled for all 4 of us and nearly in tears about it, and still choke up thinking back on it. I thought that was a great achievement, and I'm proudest of that. My greatest moment in Blood Bowl. Phil?
They are all indecipherable in jokes from people that I've shared social things with around Blood Bowl, which I won't bore you with because they're not funny to anybody that wasn't there.
Okay. Dionysian?
Probably winning the teams competition with Dimmy. Now we can sleep knowing that Dimmy has won something.
Yeah, you made him the champ that he is. Okay. CJ?
Well, I think I have to say, going to the 2004 Euro Bowl as a spectator and seeing the tournament atmosphere for the first time, and was actually that's I think what got me hooked there, and then
Okay.
first time meeting people from online gaming and just seeing how this is going, what the community is like, it had a pretty huge impact.
Clearly. Multiple rerolls a turn. I'm staying with you. Good or bad for the health of the game? What do you think, Christian?
I would say neither. It's just different. Personally, I'm not super much a fan of it. I liked it more with the one reroll thing, but maybe because I'm more used to it. But it's just different.
Okay. Dionysian, good or bad for the health of the game?
Awful.
Why?
It drastically reduces the the depth and complexity of the strategy involved in the game, and all while not reducing the length the game takes to play. So you've essentially boiled interesting turns in a game down to maybe a third of what they were, and instead of trying to, with one reroll, a lot of it was like trying to edge out small advantages and which you accumulate throughout the game. Now you've boiled the interesting part of the game down to maybe a third of what it was, and without reducing the length, it's just bollocks.
Okay, Phil?
I am not a fan for all of the reasons stated, but also because where's the drama gone, right? So, in the olden times, a Chaos Warrior would roll a double skull on the first block of a turn. It'd re-roll it, and then for the rest of the turn, you were sat like, "Oh,
Yeah.
it could be now. It could be now." And multiple re-rolls takes a bit of that away. Although on the other side of the coin is most of the new coaches that I've met or newer coaches prefer it. So there is an argument there that
Yeah.
It is more forgiving.
That's exactly where I was going to go,
people.
just to be against you all, is to say I'm not a fan personally, but I do think it's very popular with the new generation of players. So I can kind of live with it for that reason. I think they like it and expect it and are weirded out by the idea of not having it. So I'm prepared to live with it based on that. But I do think it also helps me, not them, ironically. Okay, this is going to be a huge one. So let's try and keep this as brief as we can in a reasonable way. What are your top tips for becoming more competitive (better) Blood Bowler? Candlejack,
Play
what are
better people.
Okay,
Play better people and learn from them.
good.
And do it, in my opinion, do it on tabletop, because that helped me a lot, getting better, getting more a grasp of the game instead of just
Okay, so
online.
I'm going to let you have
Yeah.
play better people, and I'm going to play
Yeah.
it in different formats. So play Resurrection, play Open League, play tabletop, play online, because that will give you a better sense of risk profiles and how they change in different situations. Resurrection is a massively different risk profile because they all magically spring back to life, and being able to sometimes bring that level of mindset to a league game you're in, for example, can give you a power that other people don't have. Phil.
Embrace it. Embrace being competitive. It's all right to be competitive. It's all right to play PurpleChest and at half time say, I thought this was really interesting. Why did you do this thing? Because I was thinking this, and if you'd gone over there, maybe this would have happened. And it's okay to have that conversation. And I think the other thing I would say is it's really easy to fall into patterns that you're used to. So one of the early things that people do is take accurate on a thrower. Oh, brilliant, I can throw the ball a long way now. And they'll continue doing it because it worked that time. Always question what you're doing, question who the pressure is on at the moment in the game, and what you could have done to change that.
Good advice. Dionysian, this is a speciality of yours, isn't it? Let's come to you to wrap it up. What have we missed?
Well, I love the answers given so far, especially the play better players. You're going to improve a lot faster if you put yourself in an environment where you're playing better players as much as possible, which is the main problem with ladders as the online competition, is that you don't get that. Forget about the dice is the other one. Just don't blame everything on dice. Think about your decisions.
Good. I think that's enough strong tips for this, and we will do more episodes on that entirely. But for a short question, I thought that was some really strong answers for you there. Hope that helps. Would you rather fight 100 horses the size of chickens, or one chicken the size of a horse? Dionysian, you've probably faced this one before, so let's start with you. 100 horse-sized chickens, or one chicken, but it's the size of a horse?
One chicken the size of a horse.
Okay. Phil?
I think chickens are big enough that 100 horses would be a problem. I think if you've got one chicken, you can isolate a knee or something. I think that's the strategy.
Okay, you're going for a knee strike, I see. Christian?
Yes, the chicken. Just think of the drumstick you get from that one. It's just like...
Okay, your hunger-based ferality will take you to victory there.
Yeah, I don't like horse meat, so...
I stand alone. I'm going to take on the 100 horses. I don't think I've got it in me to take on a horse-sized chicken. Horses are big, or they can be. Chickens have got sharp beaks and nasty, nasty, kicky claws. I think 100 horses, I'm big. As long as I don't fall over, I can just stomp on them and break backs. It'll take me a while, but we'll be knee-deep, literally, in horse burgers by tea time. What's your opinion on how to balance Underworld? Phil, how do we balance Underworld?
Swarming. Swarming needs to go away. Take swarming out and then tier them properly, and then we'll have a look.
Yeah, I think tier 1 and drop swarming. I sign that. I think that will balance them. CJ?
Yes, probably that's what most people say. I don't have any better idea than that. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dio?
Obviously, remove swarming.
There you are. We all think keep them tier 1 and remove swarming. Unanimity in our answer as a panel. I did not expect that. Is integration between coaches from different regions and across different formats important to the growth of the game? Is the fact that, NAF integrates your results with coaches from different regions and across the different formats, should we get... that's kind of what I've tried to do always with this, get people from tabletop and online talking and understanding each other, and get the painters and the hobbyists in as well, and say it's all part of one thing. Is it important for
So
the
I think
growth of the game?
I think it's a really good question, actually. So we were talking about the NAF earlier, and obviously that is a big sort of melting pot. We could get into it another time. But so you're British, Dave. If you think about what's been achieved with the UKTC, for instance, if you think about the number of Cyanide people that have come out and played for that, if you think about the crossover between Fumble and Tabletop in terms of the NAF tournaments, I think all of these things help propagate a wider scene, and a wider scene helps propagate those big sort of nodes in the calendar. So I think it is a good thing. I think it is important. We were talking about Team England and Eurobowl and things earlier. There are some new people floating about on tabletop that should be in that conversation or should want to be in that conversation.
Yep.
So I think it helps regenerate things as older people. So if you've gone off to play MCP and you're not into it anymore, we need new fresh meat. So yes, I think it's important.
Okay. Dionysian. I mean, you've
Sure.
famously made friends with the Welsh people and language and nation. Have you been there?
I am Welsh.
Okay, of course. Is it important that you Welsh people reach out to the rest of the world then?
Well, mutual love and appreciation is better than not mutual love and appreciation and everyone going off to the little corners. So yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm not a clique fan, and I know you're not either. Shag, marry, kill the other three members of the panel. I said, ask me anything. They've asked that. I'll go first to make it less embarrassing for you all. Shag, marry, kill. Shag Phil, marry Christian, kill Dio. There you go. I'm not going to justify it, except that I think CJ would do the housework and most of the cooking, so that's why he got married. Phil, shag, marry, kill.
Spence is going to make loads of money playing poker, so I'm marrying him.
Okay.
I think I am shagging yourself, Dave, because you would tell a wonderful story about it afterwards. And that only leaves Christian.
Marks Christian for death.
Yeah, well.
Christian, you have your chance for revenge. Shag, marry, kill.
Yeah, I think I have to go shag Spence because then he has a reason to smile more.
Okay.
Confidence in your performance.
Yeah, that was awesome. I love that for self-belief.
Yeah. Got marry Phil because it seems easy to get along with, and yeah, then.
I'm
sorry,
doomed.
PC,
I'm doomed. I'm dead.
Yes. This is like somebody has to bite dust. So yeah.
Dionysian, they're after your money. Do they get it? Who are you going to shag, marry, and kill?
Shag Christian, marry Phil because you want to hit that multiple times, and Phil kill you.
I'm dead twice. Dead twice. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I can't argue with that, or I don't wish to. One of those two is true. I think we can move on from that very quickly. PC has railed against hand-rolled dice, slow play, halfling coaches, people sitting at the ends of boards, lack of chess clocks, underworld coaches, dice towers, tight schedules, rules lawyers, skaven coaches, rudeness, and many other things.
I lost track, sorry.
I'm not sure that's fair. I'm not sure I've railed against many other things. I think that is the list. What's your pet peeve in Blood Bowl? Dionysian.
Lack of chess clocks. Lack of chess clocks is the thing that will stop me going back to tabletop.
Phil.
Rounds that are too tight, because I like to have a chat and a drink, and sod your chess clocks. It's boring.
Tight schedules and chess clocks both on my list. Christian.
I say people complaining about I only needed this 2+2 to win the game, and ignoring the 5-up, 6-up, double pow, fuck you move beforehand and stuff.
You can just say me. You don't have to dress it up. It's fine. Okay, so it's dice whiners for Christian. For me, from my extensive list of things I whine about, I think it might have to be hand rollers. And I don't mean people that roll them properly into a tray or something. I mean either rolling them at my figures, seemingly trying to destroy the board every turn, or the ploppers. The creative hand, exact attitude. I forget what it is. Anyway, the cheats. Sorry, the hand rollers, yes.
PC,
should Skaven... sorry.
Echoing.
I'm echoing.
Yeah, so several people.
Hopefully that should now be sorted out. We've unplugged and replugged. Should Slan die now? Yes. Phil.
I think it is inevitable that Slan will die.
That's why
it's a sliding scale as to when you think the time is. I think early on somebody said that Slan. I think somebody in a position of power. It might have been Paul said that Slan would never die, and I think that's wrong. I think Slan will absolutely die. I think there'll be a tipping point when there are more people that don't remember Slan than those that do, and I think they'll die then.
Christian, should Slan die?
No, they are fun.
Okay, fair enough. Dionysian,
Yep.
Spence.
But if the question is should, then no, it would be a tragedy if they do, but I agree it's inevitable.
An inevitable tragedy whose time is long overdue. Let them go. Turns out they don't really exist. What changes would you make to the current rule set in order to improve the game? There's a nice easy one. One change you would make to the current rule set in order to improve the current game. Dionysian, you must have one.
Oh god. Revert multiple rerolls.
Okay. Phil?
I mean, one.
Yep.
So I think rules as written. If you got the book now today, stars are the big. I know we've got loads of coping strategies, and there's an errata and there's mega stars and all of that. But let's make stars interesting again. Let's not either just write them out or have them be bent. Let's just find a middle ground.
Okay. Christian?
Yeah, my issue is make one change because usually you would need to make other changes to avoid other issues. Like Spence said, remove multiple rerolls. Okay, but then you might have to adjust other things that will crop up. So maybe just you need them to be a small change that does not have too much side effects. And so then I would say maybe get an eye mechanic for the fouling again.
Yeah, for those that don't remember, I've got my eye on you as a mechanic where if you fouled, instead of being sent off on a 1 in 6, your second foul would be 50% because the ref was keeping an eye on you. If opposition then fouled, he then started keeping an eye on them, so he could flick back and forth between the two teams.
Yes.
But whoever the eye was on,
enough,
it was 50% chance to be thrown out.
That question is like asking us to take a twig out of a bonfire, by the way.
Yes, that's the issue.
It wasn't the question. The question was solve the whole rule set, but we'd be here all night, and that deserves its own episode if we're going to do that. For me, if there was one change, it's firstly stop fucking with goblins and making them worse, and then maybe just maybe think about trying to get their win rate up over 35%. I think that would be a reasonable goal.
Yeah, but that's not a change. That is an effect you want to have. What would be the change to do that?
Make Doom Divers reasonable again. Take the random 1d3 off swoop, so it's just d3. It just rolls 3. You've already hurt their landing. They still can't dodge. There's no reason to change the swoop as well to make it a 1d3. It could still be 3. What would you change in Pro Elves so they weren't so difficult for many to play? My answer is nothing. Some teams should be difficult for people to play, and their win rate's fine. Phil?
I took the words right out of my mouth. You didn't give me a chance to think of a different answer. That's the answer.
I should get to answer first sometimes.
Yeah. No, that is the answer.
Okay. Dio?
Nothing, but I would reject the premise that they're difficult to play.
Okay.
Yes.
And CJ?
Yes, this is in fact like who says they're different to play and why? Because then you can decide what you change with them. I think people have issues because like slow linemen with low armor and rather fragile, but they're still okay. So
yeah, I think they're difficult for new players, right? Because everybody's the same when they pick up Blood Bowl. All the models get smished together, and then you've got slow elves who haven't got any skills to help them dodge away, and they've got low armor, right?
Yep.
So that would be why they're difficult, quote unquote. So the way out of that would be to make them faster, or give them dodge, or make them wood elves.
They're more difficult than maybe other elves, like that start with dodge a lot, like wood elves, as you said. So
or with armor, like the other two.
Yeah, it's always like it's relative. Like they're maybe more difficult than some other teams, but they're in itself they're not that difficult once you understand the game a bit.
The answer to elves
They
is
might be the
very,
easiest
very simple.
elves in this rule set.
Yeah, except they're not dark elves.
They're
But
the
other than
fouling
that,
elves,
yes.
They're the fouling elves.
They are the cheapest elves,
Yeah.
so fouling is probably more viable for them than others, yes. The answer to elves is simple to me. There's no problem with pro. There's no problem with woodies. They're distinct and they're fun and they're elfish. Dark elves have too many positionals. Take 2 blitzers away from them, and people will have to use either assassins or runners or what's the other one they have? Witches, of course. So you'd still have 8 positionals available, and give those 2 blitzers to high elves, who could then lose 2 catchers, making pro elves slightly more unique as the 4 good catcher elves. And I think that solves elves overnight. You might have to give dark elves a tiny buff because you've taken 2 blitzers off them. Give assassins a point of armor or something. It would all be fine. But I think that would give you more distinct and more fun elves. Do you think the UK Blood Bowl calendar needs more team events, maybe 2 or 3 people teams? There is a new one kicking off in Kent in March of next year. I've already signed up to go. Do you think it needs more team events in the UK scene? I'm going to ask a German player. Candlejack, what do you think? Does the UK need more team events? Notably, there is more longer events in Germany, isn't there? You're more likely to go to a 2-dayer.
Yeah, well, I don't think it would hurt, but I don't know if the UK scene needs more.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I thought get you out of the way early because you probably don't have much of a view on it. Dio, does a Welshman have any view on the UK? You're still part of the UK. We still own you. Should we have more team tournaments for maybe 2 or 3 people teams?
Yes. The more team tournaments, the better, of all different sizes of teams.
Sure. Phil?
It is my favourite kind of Blood Bowl. It is great. I think you probably could have too much of a good thing. I think that is possible. You could, and you've got to think that putting on team events is more difficult than putting on singles events as well. So we've got one big lightning rod one. We've got the new camp one, as you say. There's a couple of doubles tournaments. I wouldn't be adverse to 1, maybe 2 more at the ends of the country, perhaps. But it would be bad if every week was a team event, I think.
I like what Kent's doing with having it's a 14-person event, or you can have 5, but then you have to rotate the 5th person through. Or they can play in a team if someone doesn't turn up, or if there's enough people, the 5th players can form a team and take part. So there's lots of ways of ensuring that even if you go singly, they're now advertising single tickets as well, that you can still take part, which I think is a nice innovation in that team events. But yes, more team events. I like it too, but I do worry we reach saturation. I don't want to go to a team event with 7 teams.
Is that an innovation? Hasn't Camdub always done that, singles?
I didn't know.
Yeah, we did. And if you think about some of the big European team events, so Bill Bally, for instance, you can go as 5 players, and they'll mess about with that to make sure everybody gets a game and stuff. But I think the way that Kent are doing it is quite explicit and it's quite good how they've advertised it. So maybe that's why you picked up on it.
Okay, this is a bugger. Someone has spotted that we are all known to play team events. They're offering us a choice. The night before the event, a devil appears to us and says, you will win the singles, but your team will be devastated and lose almost every game. Or you personally will do badly, but the team will get a win. Which would you pick? I know what everyone is going to say to this. Christian, which would you pick?
Depends on what team I'm in.
Okay. You've surprised me already. I love that.
Yeah. It's of course usually I would like the team to do well. So that's, but it's like something for Euro Bowl. Of course, the team should win if it gets screwed over. If it's maybe something like get thrown into a team of people I don't know, then I don't give a shit.
Okay. Phil.
Oh, you know the answer. Team win. Always team win. I mean, so we had, I'm thinking of UKTC this year. One of our team members did very, very badly. He was sort of an integral part of the weekend, of the social, of the team. It doesn't matter if you're not contributing points.
Which he didn't. He absolutely didn't.
He didn't have his best weekend, no. But he contributed in all other ways.
Yeah, he was there. Dio.
Team win, obviously. It's like get the best individual. There are some people that will go with the 3 worst players they know.
Yep.
The team event, and it always seemed like the most tedious thing possible.
Yeah, none of us, I think, are quite at that level of evilness. And I think PW plays with his son just because it's nice to spend that family time together. His son, of course, actually capable of being on just about any team that would have a good Blood Bowl players on it. So I am joking. The team, every single time. It's nice to do well, but when you're on a team, you want the team to do well. It's much, much more important. As the question said, we're all team players, and we're all team players. Unless it's a team full of randoms, in which case, yeah, that might be slightly more tense. Should we do the final personal questions? Because we're getting towards the point where I should start to think about wrapping up. And we've got plenty more questions to go, but we might do one more two after that. We went first with Dio last time, so this time we're going first with Christian. Give me a number between 1 and 4, please.
3.
Will there ever be better graphic fumble client? A better graphics fumble client, in your opinion?
Well, I think people know that there are some people working hard on making larger graphics and better graphics for the player icons, and so I'm sure it will be done. But I can't do graphics, so I'm not involved in that. But I'm very sure it will be at some point in the future.
Okay.
Far away.
A number between 1 and 3, please.
2.
Where do you see online Blood Bowl going in the future? Will we ever have a VR version with total immersion? Will I be standing on the sidelines coaching my dwarves?
Personally, I hope not, because I would just puke all over it, probably. I'm sure somebody will come up with it, because people like to play with things. I kind of doubt it will be like something mainstreamy or will be taken off too much, but some prototype will be around. I'm pretty sure.
2 questions left, 1 or 2, A or B?
Well, 2 then.
Any plans to make Spec Chat visible to players on Fumble? In the Twitch era, it seems silly that it isn't.
Not from my side, and well, maybe we can rethink this. Has been.
I don't agree with the question, by the way. I'm just asking out.
Yeah, it's just no. It's a valid question to rethink current constraints we have. Because nowadays people could just get coaching as we had on the streams and stuff, and that way would at least be visible to both sides. And I mean, if you play on the board, you can talk to people. So yeah, maybe that can be revised, but no plans so far.
And it's your choice. Do you want your final question?
Yes.
Your final question is: there's a new breed of young German but not German tabletop players. Is that a good thing?
I'm not quite sure I understand the question.
They're referring to the likes of Storr and Volcajo, declaring themselves to be either Andorran or from Ladonia.
Yes, like new or young is something. Well,
I don't think either particularly.
There are more people in the community, and they're good people. So yes, that's a good thing. And if they want to play for the German team at one point, that's their call. So
does it worry you they've declared themselves for Andorra and Ladonia?
No, it's just nothing to worry about. It's just if they want to do that. Personally, I think it's a bit silly, but okay. It's each to their own. Personally, would say if I was captain, it was about to choosing people, then I would actually be straight and say, okay, you have set Andorra or Ladonia on your NAV profile, then I would consider you as a freebooter, but I will pick other people first. Because
me too.
If you want to play this game, then
I think we should have. Doesn't it take 3 years or something to change nationality under FIFA rules? I think it should be the same.
It's like if you change it, then you have to wait a few years until you can change back. So to avoid people flipping just nationalities, but that's more like I think a rhetorical issue, because yes, sometimes people move to a different country, and then it's more than fine to switch the nationality, like we have with Core in England. Like Keither from Germany moved to Switzerland and lives there now for years, and so it's just completely sensible for him to play for Switzerland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Phil, 1 to 4, please.
I'm Bamboozled. Kristen, have you got Blood Bowl dog-out trousers on?
No, it's not the choice. It's my Blood Bowl blanket, a gift from
wow.
my very supporting girlfriend.
Well, she's excellent, and I was
Yeah,
completely
she's the
distracted.
best.
1, please.
When do you feel pressure playing Blood Bowl?
All the time. All the time. I always feel right in the middle of a pressure cooker situation.
Is
It's
part
one
of
of the
that
things I like about it.
the pressure of being Purplegoo?
There's no pressure to be in Purplegoo, is there?
Isn't there?
Why? Why would I feel pressure?
Isn't there an expectation of you to be excellent at Blood Bowl at all times?
If there is, I don't feel that. I'm for the 2 hours that we're playing, I feel very highly strung.
Okay.
But I don't feel anything additional because
Because of who you are. Question 1, 2, or 3?
1.
One mediocre streamer and Blood Bowl player said confidence was all it would take them to beat you. Are they right?
Anybody can beat me. So yeah.
Okay. 1 or 2, A or B?
1.
1 is, have you ever considered making content? And there's content in inverted commas. YouTube, Twitch, writing
not
articles.
really. So contributing to something like this, I really enjoy. I've done bits and bobs when I was an FTD. I wrote sort of tournament blogs and things. But I think if I were to do content around trying to do tactics and strategy stuff, I think I would be frustrated with my attempts to articulate what I meant. Well, I've heard Spence talking this evening, for instance, and I couldn't use that language in that expressive way that he does to get his point over. I think that would annoy me. So no.
Okay. Do you want your final question? No isn't acceptable.
Yeah, hit me.
Okay.
No.
What did you make of the Mount Goo nickname? And did you have a Mount Goo when you were coming up? Mount Goo, for those that don't know, Phil was top of the fumble rankings for several years, number 1 if you looked at competitive rankings. And from some people that earned him the nickname Mount Goo, an insurmountable pinnacle.
So I guess the reason why I was top of the fumble rankings for so long is because I didn't play very much, and because I didn't play very much, I wasn't very involved with the Discord and the surrounding chat. So I was only very loosely aware of this nickname. Come on, fumble CR. I'm sure it is better now, but we all know how we do it. Everybody on this phone call could be number 1 in a month if they wanted to be. It's meaningful, sort of.
Probably everyone on this phone call has been number 1.
Well, yeah, there you go.
Certainly you and I have, and I think Spence probably has.
It's meaningful in a way in that, the people that win games are high, and most of the people that win games are good.
Okay.
But it's not, being number 1 is not a thing to cover. I think there were long-term number 1s when I was coming through.
Was there anything you had as a real target, as a real, I want to play them, I want to be as good as them, I want to be thought of like them?
As soon as I'd worked out that rankings were whatever you wanted to make them, no.
Fair enough. Dionysian, Maximum Derek, Papa loves me, big time. I have questions left for you. Pick a number between 1 and 4.
1.
Why did you take down your YouTube channel?
No comment. Next question.
1, 2, or 3?
1.
Are you coming back to the tabletop NAF scene, or are you still done with NAF tabletop?
At the moment, I'm done because the rule set is the dumpster fire, round times are shortening, and there's no chess clocks. But I mean, I mainly want the chess clocks because of the round time shortening and like the pressure on the venues. Like Phil was like, "Oh, let's have long rounds." That would be great, and then like the chess clocks wouldn't be such a big deal. So yeah, it would need something to improve, either rule set or playing conditions, to be more friendly to competitive players.
Yes, there was a London tournament on the Friday, which I want to go to because the weekend I might be taking my daughter to university, and they had 3 rounds in 6 hours with no breaks. So I wrote and said, well, then I can't come to that. I don't want to force myself to try and play at that speed. He said, well, what's a good round time? I said, at least 2 hours 15, ideally more, and with a break in between. So he said, right, it's now 3 rounds of 2 hours 15, no breaks. So I sort of feel I've got to go, because he went, so I've done that for you. I went, all right, passive aggressive much? I guess I'll come. But I still think that's going to be too quick. You've got 2 questions left, A or B.
A.
Quantity or quality for matches at a beginner, medium, and higher level in Blood Bowl. Let's just say, should people be looking, if they're trying to get better, at quality or at quantity for their matches?
Both. You start with quantity. I've literally just done this learning the rule set. You start with quantity and you don't worry too much. You just spam out the games.
Yep.
You build up your pattern database and then you focus down. Like next trophy season, I will probably only be playing 60 games or so.
So
they'll be high quality games instead of spamming 200.
Right. So that was a learning process for you. You knew what the end result of that 1,000 games in a month thing was. Cool. Do you want your last question or not?
Sure.
How much of what you say is serious?
At least 73.4%.
I will take that as an answer. Thank you very much for your answers. Only passed on 1. I thought that was quite brave. Should we do my last 4?
Yeah, sure.
Give me an answer between 1 and 4, please, Dio.
1.
Richard Burton once said he would rather have played for Wales at Arms Park than Hamlet at the Old Vic. Would I rather have played for Wales in Euro Bowl or Hamlet at the Old Vic? I think I might actually have been offered a seat on what was sort of Team Wales for Euro Bowl once. That's easy for me. I'd rather, even though Hamlet is not a role I should play, I'd rather play Hamlet at the Old Vic 1,000 times over. Actually, in that play, I should play the king, whose name escapes me. His uncle who killed his father. That's the better role for me and always was, because Hamlet's a wanker who can't make his fucking mind up and just get on with what obviously needs doing. Give me Macbeth anytime. That's a proper play. Okay, give me a number between 1 and 3, please, Phil.
3.
3. Is there anything I wouldn't cover on One World, One Blood Bowl? I can't think of anything. I mean, anything I felt was inappropriate content. So, I mean, I've railed in the past about, for example, Stormtrooper Blood Bowl players. No one needs that. No one needs Nazis on the field. Anything I thought was sexist, homophobic, or hateful in that way, definitely not. There's a tournament where everyone took their tops off. I thought that was kind of inappropriate and not very friendly to lots of people that would want to go. Not just people of different genders. I mean, I wouldn't want to take my top off, and neither would you want me to take my top off. So the content like that, content that isn't, I think, appropriate for a big, wide community, I wouldn't cover. But everything else is fair game as far as I'm concerned. If we're out there doing it, I'm happy to talk about it. 2 left. CJ, give me a number between 1 and 2.
2.
I've been streaming Jagged Alliance 3 a lot recently and holding plenty of viewers. Do I see the future of my Twitch channel or just a deviation? I don't know that my Twitch channel has a future. I don't know that my Blood Bowl has much of a future. Certainly Jagged Alliance 3 I'm enjoying playing. I mean, holding an audience, I get 20 to 30 people. That's not enough to really be anything other than me doing it for myself. So that's why I'm doing it. It's because I'm enjoying that game. I still love Blood Bowl. I still will stream Blood Bowl. But yes, I have been streaming Jagged Alliance 3. No, I don't think it's the future of my channel. There's your answer. Everyone else has said yes to the final question, so I will too. Where do I see me and Blood Bowl going once the 2023 World Cup is over? Yeah, and this is someone I'd mentioned it to before. I don't know. Because of this rule set, I'm not feeling quite the same about Blood Bowl as I used to. Blood Bowl 3 is talk about the rule set being a dumpster fire. Blood Bowl 3 is still an absolute pig to play. It just is so difficult to make Blood Bowl happen there in the way you want Blood Bowl to happen. And that feels really restrictive to me. I don't like what they're doing with it and the way they're going with it. I'm not crazy about the new rule set. I'd love playing tabletop. It might be I just do a few of those a year and play a lot less Blood Bowl. Or maybe the World Cup will reinvigorate me. I really don't know. I don't know is the honest answer. So I'm going to stick with that. Honesty seems like a good thing. Do we have time for a couple more, gents? I have kept you, an hour and 50 minutes. Can we push on for 10 more minutes? We'll do 2 more and then wrap up.
I'm more than happy to carry on.
Yeah,
I'm itching to
We've
get
got
into.
we've got a
The
whole
rules aren't that bad, really.
load of them
Yeah,
still to go here. We're never going to get through them all.
midnight.
Go on.
Okay, how important is the theme to the success of Blood Bowl as a competitive game? So the whole fantasy races play American football. How important is that to the success of Blood Bowl, would you say? Dio?
I think it's probably harmful to the success of Blood Bowl because it was a competitive game because it encourages aggression, which is pretty bad for the health of the game.
Okay. Phil?
I don't think it helps the competitive nature of the game. I think it helps the game be interesting because it gives us the theme of it being a pitch and scoring and direction, and it gives the mechanics a name that I certainly chimes with me. That's why I play it or started playing it, I think.
Christian?
I think it's great for getting people interested in the game because it's something a lot of people can rate to that people find like cool or fun, and just the idea of having an elf and a dwarf play this kind of game, and especially as fantasy is more and more mainstream, and I agree, like it's for like the competitive part, it has not much merit. Maybe it's encumbering in some way, but I think it's vital because it gets people in the game, and helps the player base to grow, and so, a lot of people get into and get out again, but some stick, and that is good.
I'm not sure I'd go as far as vital. I do think it's important. I think a lot of people come to it because, as you say, they recognise American football, they recognise the Tolkien-esque races, and they can put those together in their head a lot easier than say, I'm going to use a ruler to move a super soldier to kill a space elf. I just don't think that has the same recognition in people's consciousness as a game of American football set on a recognisable pitch does. So I think it helps over that barrier of sitting down to play a tabletop war game because it doesn't feel like it is. What's your favourite book? This should be very simple. Catch-22 for me, boring, but yeah, it's just the best book ever written. Phil?
I'm just looking over to my bookshelf. In recent years, I've read Joe Abercrombie's trilogy and surrounding books. I think they're good fun.
Christian?
Don't think I have a favorite book. I like the Discworld series a lot.
Okay. Dio?
Crime and Punishment.
Okay. Nothing by Luke Reinhardt then. And what's the most interesting tournament you've been to? And which tournament would you love to attend but haven't? I'd love to go to Lutice. I hear the catering is fantastic, but also Thorbell. The most interesting one I've been to, I don't go to many interesting ones. I'm always interested in going to the UKTC. I think that's always an incredible scene, and you see lots of good international players. That's fun. You are three, I think, more widely travelled than I. So, Christian, let's start with you. What's the most interesting tournament you've been to, and is there any tournament you'd love to go to but haven't?
A lot of tournaments I'd love to go to and have not been. If I have to pick one, I think I have to say Chaos Cup, just to be on the other side of the pond for once, and this is a big one there. Most interesting. I think for something unique, I have to say the bubble in Utrecht has been. It has been some iterations, but the one when they kind of tiered races, like tier points, and you had to choose two teams of these 5 points. So like if you take Wooders, you had to take something like Halflings or something in the middle, and then you had to decide on each day which of those two teams you want to play, and have to think, are the other people going to take the strong teams now or the weak teams? And I thought that had a nice touch.
Does sound an interesting wrinkle. Spence?
The most interesting would be the Welsh National Championships.
Okay.
There's always a foreign contingent attending, and it's obviously the most prestigious competition in the world to win. And the one I'd most like to attend is probably whatever the American major is, for obvious reasons.
Which is the Chaos Cup again. Phil?
It's a good time to be asking this question. The most interesting UK tournament's next weekend. So that's Monkey Bowl. It's got a fantastic rule set where you pick two teams, you take two teams with you, you can use them each 3 times over a 6-game weekend. Like there's a card system, you put your card down, your opponent puts the card down. There's really heavy tiering both in teams and in skills. So block is worth 4 times a armbar, for instance. It's great crack. It's traditionally one of the strongest fields in the UK as well. It's just got everything going for it. It's great.
Competing time-wise with Thrudbowl, though, isn't it? Is that the same weekend as Thrud? So we've got Thrud down south and Monkey Bowl up north?
Yeah, I mean, Thrud attracts a very different
Yeah,
audience.
so
Thrud
absolutely.
is great for many reasons.
Yep.
Me, I'll be getting on. Monkey Bowl's something I wouldn't miss every year.
Okay.
But
I
it's
think-
still hard to pull, isn't it?
I think we need to move
Durham now,
to finishing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask one more question, and then there's going to be a special wrap-up to get rid of all the rest of the questions. If redrafting comes to Blood Bowl, which races will be winners and losers? Just a couple of each, guys. Dionysian, if redrafting does finally come, which races do you expect to win and lose?
No comment.
No, I can't push you to anything at all. Not a single thing you think that'll work.
Nope. No comment on that this time.
Until you've seen data or experimented yourself. All right, Phil, I'm going to let him get away with it.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not very good at min-maxing. I've never tried particularly. This is effectively enforced min-maxing, isn't it?
To some degree, yeah.
So I guess dwarves and Amazons would probably be very good at it, and I suppose things that are very expensive and find skills hard to come by wouldn't be very good at it. So I don't know. Nobility probably not very good at it, I imagine.
But then they're not very good at anything, are they?
No, I've not really thought about it. In
Team that shit at Blood Bowl also shit in redraft. A stunning revelation. CJ.
Probably.
I think Crappy will be stuff like Necros or Lizards with plays that are hard to skill up and take a long time. So like Golems or Wrath are pain to get skills to, or Saurus with without the selective MVP. So like you get some points on them, and then you have to redraft. So we want to carry them over for the points, but then you have to pay for them. So it's going to be a pain. I think teams will do well that can easily put points on selective players. So I guess Underworld will have like a good big guy and a good gutter runner, and the rest will just get shafted. Or I think also Wood Elves or Elves that can say, okay, I want to go with that guy, and it's going to be rather easy to do that. And those teams will likely prevail. Maybe Dwarves, Amazons will be good as well because they can just recycle generically. But
I think a huge amount is going to depend on how redrafting is implemented, obviously. My prediction is slightly weird. I think we're going to see the teams that have good across-the-board players, like Amazons and Dwarves and the Elf teams, do quite well for a season in redraft. I think in Season 2 and possibly Season 3 they're going to be very powerful. But I think actually the teams that can keep a core of 1 or 2 legendary players and surround it with filth and do well are the ones that will do well out of redrafting longer term. So, you can think of Skaven with, say, 2 legendary gutter runners, and pretty much if the rest can be filth every season, and you can put a few skills on them, and then at the end of the season you're just rehiring your legends and dumping all the rest again.
Yes.
So I actually think the tower, the tall rather than wide. I think wide will do well if you understand that term for the first couple of seasons of redrafting, but then we'll see tall come through.
Yes. But
we see that now, don't we? So there are a couple of people absolutely making bank in Black Box just by having 1 or 2 legends and a load of old rubbish.
Yeah.
And it doesn't strike me as a very exciting or interesting way of living your life. But if you just want to grind out wins against hapless people that are trying to play differently.
I mean, I do think Dwarves will be fabulous after 1 season's redraft, but I think after 2 or 3 they'll fall apart. You can't keep a whole wall of guard, and without it, they fail to all the strength.
Probably not. You need to find a way to have some good players and then not so lower players ready to skill up soon. So like, Skaven can well with 1 or 2 good gutter runners, and then when the legend gets too expensive to hold, you have one already ready to skill up in that season, the last season, to hand like over the legacy or something. So that's having replaceable, highly scoreable players. So Elves, Skaven, yeah.
I've got a question from the chat, our first one of the night, or the first one I haven't completely ignored, because it's from a new person. We're going to say thank you and listen to it. The OG Star Fox says, where can you go to watch Purplegoo's games? Do you record any of your games, or do you play in any competitions that are recorded or streamed?
I think no. The short answer to all of that is no. I don't record any of them. You can go and watch my Fumble replays. I guess I normally these days I'm pretty tired by the time I fumble. Like I wouldn't take everything that I do on Fumble as fantastic. But I play in a thing called the Super League on
Which you
Fumble,
did just
which
win, didn't you?
yes, I did just win.
And it
But
has
what I was
about
going to
200 people of the best coaches across the world playing in it, doesn't it?
what I was going to say is that is probably the highest quality thing on Fumble in terms of depth of coaching. It's insane. So just go and fire up that league and watch any of the top 5 divisions, any games from there,
Including
and
you,
you'll
who
get
just won it.
Yes.
Okay,
all right,
good.
Fine.
Have we asked? Yeah, we asked everyone on that one, haven't we? Good. Did we ask you about redrafting, by the way, Phil? What's your view on that? Okay.
Yeah. We did me.
It's getting old. Right. I kind of want to ask this to everyone, but we're not going to. So I'm going to read out all the rest of the questions. I want you each to grab one in your head, ready to answer at the end. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to throw all the rest of the questions away, and whichever one appeals to each of you, you can answer that one. Your choice is between what's the best non-megastar? If the 4 of us had a tournament playing each other twice over, where would all 4 of us place? Is 2020 rule set good, okay, or rubbish? What do you do to improve your game? Who shot first, Han or Greedo? What do you regard as your biggest life achievement? God, I hope it isn't in Blood Bowl. Are you ever not confident going into a match? How do you build confidence? What is your best game of Blood Bowl for whatever reason? Jam first or cream first on a scone? Of course, if it's jam first, you are Devonian. Cornish. Sorry to my Cornish friends. My answer is put butter on first, then the jam and then the cream. Obviously, Devonians are crazy. Why do people concede so much in Blood Bowl 2 and 3, but not in Fumble? We are also missing out on have stars been tamed to a suitable level? Because Fumble is stopping megastars in competitive and NAF tournaments, often heavily penalising them. We're also missing out on hero clicks. Any view, would you ever use one? I had to do some research on that. Hero clicks appears to be a small 32mm player that's been pre-painted and sold in a box. I didn't know that, but now I do. What is the perfect day for you? Did any of you used to be dice whiners, and how did you overcome that and outgrow it? Blood Bowl 3, does it tempt you? What do you consider the biggest barrier to entry to be when it comes to playing Blood Bowl at tournament level? You are certain someone playing against you is cheating. Ref offers no solution. They weren't there. What do you do? As a team, do you think Nurgle are competitively viable? Only a couple more. What's the most fun Blood Bowl team in Blood Bowl 2020 for both you and your opponent, winning or losing? And why is it High Elves? What is your NAF name, Twitch name, Fumble name about, and how did you choose it? Lego figures in Blood Bowl, yes or no? Quick one, this, I think, easy. Lego figures in Blood Bowl, yes or no? Candlejack.
No.
Dio.
Yes.
Phil.
No.
Yes. As long as I know what it is, fine. What are the rules for swarming? Phil.
I got the rules for swarming wrong recently.
Okay, I knew that. That's why it was in. You don't have to choose that one. And have you ever cosplayed? Would you? And as what? So those are your questions to choose your final answer as we say goodnight at the end of this incredible, wide-ranging, incredibly weird and slightly random Ask Me, by which I mean us, anything. Dionysian, which question did you select?
Obviously, how do you improve?
And what are you going to say?
You take on more unconventional positions, which will be very familiar to people that used to watch my stream. Is that maybe 90% of the games I play, winning is not a primary goal for me. I want to take on an unconventional position, build up my pattern database, and then you have more chance of winning. So I think what people should be mainly focusing on is pick one thing they do. For me, it used to be blitz bits, and And the rest of your play is mainly geared around trying to improve so that you'll be better at that. And that's the only thing you care about winning in. The rest of it, you get yourself into an unconventional position, build your pattern database, then try and win from there.
Fair enough. Phil, what question did you choose?
I'm going to be really boring and go back to the rule set,
Okay.
right? Which is going to be really annoying for everybody. But I've heard the words dumpster fire used too many times that it's triggered me, right?
Okay, good.
These rules are not as good as previous rule sets. I'm not having that argument. However, if you were to come to Blood Bowl from absolutely nothing, you would still think it pretty bloody cool, I think. I think we are 90% of the same game. And, we're not on fire to the point where I want to put my toys away. And I'm not only having that argument because I've got no other games to go to, as discussed earlier.
It's very difficult when something you love and are fantastic at changes. And I do wonder how much is ab reaction to that. Me, I love change. I thrive on it. And do you know what? I've seen it loads in 20 years on Fumble. I've seen lots of different rule sets, lots of different ways of ranking people. The same names always bubble to the top. It's because they're good at the things that make them good at Blood Bowl. It's not complex. CJ, what question did you pick, and what are you choosing to answer?
I kind of blanked because there were so many.
Okay, what do you consider to be?
I go with the first one.
All right.
That's the best non. I think that's Varrock.
The best non megastar is Varrock.
Yeah.
Not the White Dwarf, Grombrindal.
No, Varrock is a machine. It's just.
Grombrindal's a Swiss Army knife. Gives out whatever you need that turn.
Yeah, sure. And Varrock just kills stuff.
He does. He does do that. Okay, I'm going to go with a really, really obvious one because it's very important that this is said. It was Han every time. I mean, can there be any doubt in anyone's mind? It was Han. Han shot first. That's why he's an anti-hero, not a hero. Doesn't mean he's a bad person. Just means he's an anti-hero.
Does he put jam or cream on first?
He would definitely put jam on and cream on top because he's an anti-hero. He'd do it with a smirk, and like me, he'd have a little bit of butter first. I think. I just don't think he's one of those insular people that would want the cream and then the jam on the top. I just think those people are finicky. Now, I've been asking lately, is there anything I should have asked but haven't? Is there anything the world should have asked us but hasn't? This is your one moment before we say goodbye. Anything that should have been asked to us this evening, but the world, for some reason, did not. Dio, anything there? No? Super? Phil?
I don't think so. I didn't answer the what tournament haven't I been to that I'd
Okay,
like to go to.
sorry. It's getting late. I haven't been good with my getting around
fine.
us all. What tournament haven't you been to that you'd like to?
So the one that stands out to me is Luso Bowl, because I've never been to Lisbon, and it's in a palace.
Yeah, I did see pictures of that. It looked good, didn't it?
It was pretty good. Anyway, that was mine.
And you'd like to be crowned king of that palace, would you?
I just think it'd be nice not to be a working man for a change.
And yet, oddly, one of the ones I really want to go to is Thrud Bowl, which would mean sitting in a field near Swindon. It's not quite the same, is it? CJ, anything we should have talked about? The world should have asked us, but it forgot.
Maybe what was our first Blood Bowl team and why?
What was your first Blood Bowl team and why?
Undead, because I was playing Warhammer Fantasy before with Undead, and so it's just stuck with the theme. Okay. So it's not very interesting, but at least it's something.
I guess the question somebody should have asked me and didn't is, how do I get all these people to turn up for this podcast when mainly it's just me talking over them the whole time? And the answer is I've no idea, but they do, which is lovely. Thank you to Phil, to Spence, to Christian for coming on this evening. I've loved having you here. I thought that was a really fun one. I've loved asking those questions where I didn't even know what half of them were. I just pasted and then cut them out. And there we are. We had a show out of that. Hope that's been interesting for people to watch. We've covered all sorts of things, but always remember that no matter what you're trying to do, what you live, thrive, survive, play your Blood Bowl, hand shot first. There's no doubt about it. Okay, that is One World, One Blood Bowl 37. Ask us anything. Over and out. We will see you in 2 weeks when I have an incredible lineup coming on again. We have the lovely Gegster, so I'm going to have to be very controlled and calm about that. We're going to have Mike Davis, San, coming on, talking all about statistics, and the lovely, incredibly talented young Floridian Blood Bowler, Sol, sometimes known as Sol Fight Sol, or Solreth, coming on. The king of Blood Bowl 7s, a format we all deeply care about. and also an extremely good Skaven coach. We're going to be talking about the terrors of the World Cup, both in terms of the coaches and the atmosphere and everything that's going to be happening there. So we've got some experienced Gangster who knows all about World Cups. We've got Sol on because he's a Skaven expert. I think they're going to be terrors at the World Cup. We've got Mike, he knows the stats, he knows the meta. He'll tell us what to fear. Everyone's taken their choices. The die are cast. At least we can understand what the nightmares are going to be. That's going to be the next One World, One Blood Bowl in 2 weeks' time. I'm off on holiday for a week. So anything you want to drop into the channel about it, in my Discord, there is a channel. Please leave a comment on YouTube. If you've made it this far, we've earned that. Or at least tick the like or tell me you hate it. Actually, that's fine too. It still drives all the algorithms and gets people here. That's us. If everyone waves and says goodbye, it gives me a nice point to find in the edit, and it looks like the Teletubbies. Bye. Excellent. Thank you very much.